because we're working with irrationality. And now you remember from mathematics, when we were young, we're in grade school, and we're told from our math teacher, there are rational numbers and there are irrational numbers. And we're shaking our heads going, what the heck? What the hell are irrational numbers? Well, this is it. This is the Pythagorean crisis. Man has created irrationality. We're living, everything is degenerating because we're not in sync and harmony with rationality. And the numbers are the same thing. So we have in the book of 528 this other incredible revelation that, and Victor Showell's brilliant genius math work in decrypting the pyramid sacred geometry and the cosmology of the ancient pyramids. And when he did that, of course, he analyzed 528, and it's exactly like I said. In fact, I began to realize how powerful 528 is in the workings of mathematics from Victor Showell's work beyond Marco Rodin's work. They're both geniuses. I credit them both, but they're just incredible people to have the opportunity to work with. And then you realize that this 528 is central to pi, phi, Fibonacci series, the speed of light. You couldn't have any of it if it wasn't for the solution to the Pythagorean crisis. That is 528.
And it's perfect timing once again. All these, the codes, the sequences, the frequencies are all, we're remembering them. They're coming back. And the power of what that actually can heal. Like, I know Kenneth Hutchinson is down in the Gulf, vibrating 528 to help clean up the Gulf waters. And it's so evident, like Dr. Emoto's work, just looking at the pictures of what vibrating 528 does and how it changes the water crystals.
Yes, exactly. And some of the photographs, there are 60 graphics, 60 figures, and 9 tables in the book of 528. And some of these that you're speaking about, pictures of water, that Dr. Emoto, who is a friend and a colleague and who's been promoting 528 as I have for many years now, we had the same water science mentor, in fact, Dr. Lee Lorenzen, and the first time I realized 528 was extremely special in science was when I was having dinner with our water science mentor, Lee Lorenzen, and I said to him, we just published the book called Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. And I said we published the original musical scale, and the notes are 396417528. And as soon as I said 528, he almost fell off his chair, literally. He starts laughing. And I'm going, what are you laughing about? He says, Len, he says, that's an original musical note? I said, yeah. He says, that's the note that's known throughout the world of biochemistry to be a miraculous frequency for healing damaged DNA. And he says, I put that into my water. I put that into the structured water. And so that's where I realized, wow, now how does it heal damaged DNA? He didn't know. He didn't really tell me. But I know now. I know from these revelations. I know from the work particularly of Marco Rodin. Because when you take Rodin's math, he has a simple infinity pattern where he just doubles the number 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8. And you lay that out in a circle, and all of this is graphed in figures in the book of 528. You lay it out in a circle, and it forms the structure of like a double wing, like angel's wings. He calls it God's signature on everything. That's the name he's given it. But it looks like double angel wings, and I didn't even realize that he had already also mentioned this, but when I looked at that in the structure of genetics, of DNA, and by the way, DNA is actually in a circle too. It's circular. The strand is circular. And, very few people really know that. But the structure of the segments of DNA follow Rodin's infinity pattern perfectly. And then another beautiful image that Dr. Emoto sent me after having taken the 3E, I call it the 3E, it's called the Water Resonator. So we have technology now that we're advancing, including the image of the perfect circle of sound and that's available for people to put in windows and put in your computer screens, and put actually some people have stuck them on their acupuncture points and had changes internally. But the beautiful structure that Emoto, one of many that he sent me of the analysis of this material, had an arch of water crystals that were exactly what we're talking about, Rodin's mathematical pattern, the DNA structure. Here it was, an arch. And you see the arch, that's something else in the book of 528, the arc or the arch, like in archery, like in architecture. This is the ark or ark of the covenant. And the covenant, the contract between God and we the people, is about faith and love and prayer, and that this concept that the universe is constructed circularly, and this is a segment, an arc is a segment of that circle. Just like a rainbow, when you look at a rainbow, it's light crystallizing and transmitting through water, and it's circular. It's an arc or an arch. That's part of the revelations where you begin to realize the ark of the covenant, the ark of the contract is all about love. It's all about having that faith in the Creator and that heart and heartfelt connection and divine communion that is available to us now through these revelations. What a magnificent time it is to be alive, isn't it?
It is, brother. A revelation revolution of love. Ringside seats for everybody. You were talking about a transposer to where it's online right now that you can put your music in this transposer that was basically maybe created in 440, and it will transpose it into 528?
Yes, that's exactly right. And I just to finalize this matter of what we have been forced and gotten used to listening to. This is A440 standard tuning. It was institutionalized by the Rockefeller and Illuminati back in 1939, and it was promoted chiefly to the British Standards Institute by the head Nazi propagandist. The minister of propaganda for the Third Reich was Joseph Goebbels. He was also allied and partnered with Rockefeller Standard Oil Company, and the Rockefeller Foundation was advancing military research and their applications, not just for World War II at that time, but actually to create mass hysteria. That's a quote from the research documents in the Rockefeller archives. They were searching for the frequencies in acoustic warfare to literally conduct war on we the people and enemies. So the creation of the A440 standard tuning sources from this history, and then currently with the revelations we now know that the interval between 528, love, and this F sharp 741 is called the devil's tone. It's literally called the devil's interval in musicology. And it's called that because it creates such a dissonance, such an aversive yuck. It's like really a yucky sound. And going back to what you asked previously, it's the only sound in the perfect circle of sound that is not in harmony with 528. Now that's fascinating because you have to really begin to think about that. That's the Illuminati. They have selected actually the 1 out of 9 tones that they could have selected to create dissonance instead of harmony with love. And then it brings up this other concept that, gee whiz, that has to now compel us to look at what is evil, what is good, what are the harmonics. And that's why in the book of 528 you end up with realizing it's a choice. We're making a choice. And that's the beauty of this is, we've got the revelations and the intelligence that this information brings to have us choose wisely instead of completely ignorantly.
Right. So basically, for musicians out there, they want to basically set their tuners to right at 444, so they get their C at 528 and base that their tones basically off the C 528.
Right, and this for musicians is a hard one. For the general population, it's virtually impossible to wrap your head around it. But for the musicians, if we're going to just talk to the vocalists and the musicians in the world for a minute, it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that when you tune your instrument to, let's say, 528, all the pitches, like the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, all of those pitches are actually still in harmony with the original tuning of 528, even though their frequencies are different. So when you're talking about making music in 528, frankly, the best thing that we can do, given our musical scale and our ranges, is tune, as you say, to 444 hertz, because that then delivers the C in 528. That's your C5 on the piano is at 528 when your instruments are tuned to A444 instead of A440. And so that's what we've been recommending. And even when musicians are doing that, you have miraculous healing taking place. People in the audiences literally are moving into healing. You see frequently people crying. You'll see people letting go of blocks of energy, of emotional releases happening, physical releases. I had one woman who was listening to Scott Huckabee in concert, and Huckabee is a great advocate of 528. He's partnered with us, and he is one of the wonderful musicians who got it right away, that there was a perceptual difference. All musicians are typically, the good ones are spirit-filled, they're spiritually sensitive, and they feel a difference routinely. In fact, in musicology, it's called ecstatic listening. And there's a word that is under the term ecstatic listening that speaks to the tingly sensations you get frequently when you're listening to something ecstatically, and it's called frisson, Frisson. It's kind of like a kundalini rush. It's a tingly sensation all over your body. You begin to have goosebumps, and you feel just euphoric, and the hormones and the endorphins flow through your blood. That is all physiological response to how powerful music is, and when it's made in 528, the musicians easily feel that difference.